On April 4th, 2017, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, on the verge of a military victory against the terrorist insurgency in his country and on the eve of peace talks that would secure his position as president, decided to use chemical weapons he didn't have against a target of no military significance in front of as many cameras as possible to cross the one red line that would ensure his own government's downfall. Soon after, the Academy Award-winning White Helmets, noted for their Oscar-worthy performances, persistent proximity to Al-Qaeda, and financial dependence on U.S. aid, bravely risked their lives, handling Syrian victims barehanded against every protocol in the book. Without presenting a shred of evidence, President Donald Trump boldly launched a military strike against Shared Airfield because
national security interest,
promising to help the
beautiful babies.
offer does not apply to babies in Gaza, Yemen, Pakistan, or basically anywhere else. That military strike, a volley of 59 Tomahawk land attack missiles, of which 23 actually made it to the target, failed to take out a single runway or even keep the airbase from operating for even 24 hours, but was a complete success for ExxonMobil, Raytheon, and Donald Trump. No one could question the wisdom of striking Syria, except Donald Trump, and no one could oppose such a move, except Russia. The Trump train, still convinced by candidate Trump,
And by listening to guys like Lindsey Graham and drop bombs on Assad, drop bombs on ISIS, but they're fighting each other, so maybe we shouldn't do that.
and
Important to get Assad to step aside.
Well, they've been trying to do that, but I don't think it's that important, to be honest with you. I think, frankly, let's say you get rid of Assad or you who's going to take over? The people who are backing, and then you're going to have, like, Libya?
concluded that this was seventh-dimensional backgammon to make China afraid of the U.S.'s willingness to spend $100 million in a fearsome show of failing to destroy a single airfield. Throughout the world, people rejoice as a horrible secular regime in the Middle East is replaced by yet another peace-loving band of ragtag human rights campaigners and child beheaders motivated by a desire to subdue the armies of Rome in an apocalyptic confrontation in Lviv. The chemicals for the previous Red Line attack in Syria have since been proven to come from Libya with U.S. approval, but that's probably not relevant to this case. The CIA has released declassified report after declassified report showing that the plan to topple Syria's government has been in the works for decades, but this just shows that they were right all along. The mainstream media unquestionably asserts that the story is true because the U.S. government says so, but that's okay because we all know the NSM is full of unbiased truth-tellers and dig hard to get the raw facts on every story.
We see these beautiful pictures at night from the decks of these two U.S. Navy vessels in the eastern Mediterranean. I am tempted to quote the great Leonard Cohen, I'm guided by the beauty of our weapons, and they are beautiful pictures.
Even members of Congress think the story is a load of hogwash, but that's okay because they're probably crazy.
Because frankly, I don't think Assad would have done that. It does not serve his interests. It would tend to draw us into that civil war even further.
Who do you think is behind it? Who do you think is behind it?
I love her reaction. Ha ha ha.
Meanwhile, the White House is
Truth hurts
on
on.
its intelligence about the chemical attack, though it feeds its own version of the story, but that's okay because when has the White House ever lied people into war? This man doesn't exist, and if you think he does, you're an enemy of humanity who should apologize for having been born. Likewise, him, her, him, and him, and him and her. This is the 100% true story of the Syria strikes, and if you support sites like the Corker Report that question it in any way, you are a moonbeam, fake news, tyrant-loving, hippie-pinko-Russian agent and should commit ritual suicide immediately. If you love your country and or liberty, NASCAR, supermodels, TV, water slides, or your mother, you will not question this story in any way. Ever. This message has been brought to you by the Friends of the Brookings Institute, Raytheon, Geneva, Union, ICIASIS, and the New York Times. Because ignorance is strength.
What you need to know about Trump's war in Syria. First, we have to start with the chemical attack in 2013, which the Allied forces blamed on Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. UN human rights investigator Carla Del Ponte, whose job it was to investigate the attack, claimed it was the rebels who were responsible, not Assad.
What appeared to our investigation that was used by the opponents, by the rebels, and we had no indication at all that the government, the authority of the Syrian government had used chemical weapons.
أعطي فرصة شهر واحد للمجتمع الدولي كي يتحرك ويعطي الذخيرة والسلاح للثوار والجيش الحر في الأرض كي نستطيع أن ندحر هذا النظام المجرم. شهر واحد، إذا وجدنا أن هذا المجتمع الدولي سيتابع في تخاذلنا تجاه ثورتنا، سنفصح عما لدينا من إثباتات، وأنا أقول ذلك وأعتقد أنك تعرف جيدا أننا صادقون فيما أقول.
Free Syrian Army Commander Abdel Basset Kamil publicly blackmailed the Allied forces, saying, "Give us more weapons, or we'll reveal what really happened with the chemical attack." Obama and Congress signed over more taxpayer money to arm them. What does that tell you? There was never any evidence that Assad gassed his own people, but who claimed that they had evidence that Assad did it? Israel. To understand this, we need to go back to September 11, 2001. An hour after the first tower was demolished, former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak blamed Osama bin Laden.
The bin Laden sits in Afghanistan. There is a sort of...
Because we're not saying he's responsible for this.
But so we've never made the case or argued the case that somehow Osama bin Laden was directly involved in 9/11. That evidence has never been forthcoming.
Dick Cheney publicly admitted in 2006 that there was no evidence linking Osama bin Laden to 9/11. Israel lied, and Afghanistan was invaded.
And every indication we have is that he is pursuing with abandon, pursuing with every ounce of effort the establishment of weapons of mass destruction, including nuclear weapons. There is no question whatsoever that Saddam is seeking and is working and is advancing towards the development of nuclear weapons. No question whatsoever.
No proof whatsoever either.
At the time was we thought he had weapons of mass destruction. Turns out he didn't, but he had the capacity to make weapons of mass destruction. But I also talked about the human suffering in Iraq. The terrorists attacked us and killed 3,000 of our citizens before we started the freedom agenda in the Middle East. They were... What did Iraq have to do with what? Nothing.
Admitted guilt right there.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told Congress in 2002 that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. There were no weapons of mass destruction. Israel lied again, and Iraq was invaded.
Bin Laden, who is behind this very attack, when you and the whole world will realize the death toll that has been paid in this event, it will become beyond any doubt of anyone on earth in the free world that a concerted attack against those should be taken. And the same applies to the Hezbollah, to the Islamic Jihad, to the Hamas, against rogue countries like Iraq and Iran.
It wouldn't have helped today.
It wouldn't have helped, but this event emphasized that there are certain countries in the world, North Korea, Iraq, Iran, maybe Gaddafi, maybe one or more else, that are ready to threat the world order by using whatever they have.
You've got Gaddafi, who says that the war there is in part because of oil and Zionists. You've got Syria siding with Gaddafi.
And I think that it's the right step by the free world to intervene in Libya in order to put an end to this massacre of his own citizens by their own leader.
Ehud Barak called for war against Libya in 2001. In 2011, this pathological liar claimed that Gaddafi was massacring his own people. Libya was invaded.
Именно после свержения Каддафи при активном участии отдельных европейских стран, которых беженцев стал абсолютно бесконтрольным.
Слушайте, люди из НАТО, вы бомбитесь тем, который не пропускал поток миграции в Европу, с тем, которая останавливала террористов Аль-Каиды. Этой стеной была Ливия. Вы разрушаете ее. Вы идиоты.
My fellow Americans, tonight I want to talk to you about Syria, why it matters, and where we go from here. Over the past 2 years, what began as a series of peaceful protests against the repressive regime of Bashar al-Assad has turned into a brutal civil war. Over 100,000 people have been killed. Millions have fled the country. In that time, America has worked with allies to provide humanitarian support, to help the moderate opposition, and to shape a political settlement. But I have resisted calls for military action because we cannot resolve someone else's civil war through force, particularly after a decade of war in Iraq and Afghanistan. The situation profoundly changed, though, on August 21st, when Assad's government gassed to death over 1,000 people, including hundreds of children. The images from this massacre are sickening. Men, women, children lying in rows, killed by poison gas, others foaming at the mouth, gasping for breath, a father clutching his dead children, imploring them to get up and walk.
My fellow Americans, on Tuesday, Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad launched a horrible chemical weapons attack on innocent civilians. Using a deadly nerve agent, Assad choked out the lives of helpless men, women, and children. It was a slow and brutal death for so many. Even beautiful babies were cruelly murdered in this very barbaric attack. No child of God should ever suffer such horror. Tonight I ordered a targeted military strike on the airfield in Syria from where the chemical attack was launched. It is in this vital national security interest of the United States to prevent and deter the spread and use of deadly chemical weapons. There can be no dispute that Syria used banned chemical weapons.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, "Fool me once, shame on you." If fool me, you can't get fooled again.
Another president, another chemical attack in Syria, and again Assad is being blamed without any evidence being provided. Who is claiming that they are 100% certain Assad ordered this attack? Once again, Israel. Israeli Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman claimed this attack was a direct order from Assad. In 2015, Lieberman publicly called for disloyal Arab Israelis to be beheaded. Netanyahu, who lied about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, is now calling on the world to intervene in Syria.
Ivana, do you blame President Assad for this?
Yes.
What is your message to President Assad?
I am very sad. A lot of died, and no one helped them. The world is watching. The world doesn't do anything.
Strangely, the text on the teleprompter is very similar to what Israeli politicians and other Zionists have been saying the last couple of days. The world must fight another war for Israel. The plan to destabilize Iraq and Syria was officially planned by Israeli American British citizens in 1996. Douglas Feith, Richard Perle, David Wurmser wrote policy papers for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu titled A Clean Break, A New Strategy for Securing the Realm. In 2001, they got prominent positions in the Bush administration, and Israel controlled U.S. foreign policy. Douglas Feith, Under Secretary of Defense, Richard Perle, Chairman of the Defense Policy Board, David Wurmser, Middle East Advisor to Dick Cheney. These are the facts. Douglas Feith even admitted his involvement on his own website. He just puts all the blame on David Wurmser. In an interview with BBC, David Wurmser's wife, Mayrab, who was also involved, admitted the Clean Break policy papers were legit.
That paper in 1996, the Clean Break paper, that was the paper that led to accusations of dual loyalty.
There is no dual loyalty.
It's a broad